Welcome to the Intuitive Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amy Brooks. This is a podcast that invites you to remember who you are, return to yourself, and rise into your highest and best soul self. Every week, I will be sharing inspiring conversations about topics that hold keys to your awakening. My mission as an international evidential psychic medium, Reiki practitioner, and intuitive mentor is to help you rise into who you were born to be. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Intuitive Rising podcast. I am your host, Amy Brooks, and we're here today for the November energy forecast and guidance. November, the 11th month, 2022. Kind of sort of crazy that we're here already, but here we are, and let's dive right in, shall we? So, we've got the Lightseers Tarot. Gonna pull a card from that live with you in the episode as I do. I'm gonna start with tarot, moving into an oracle deck, moving into the Soul's Journey lesson card, and then we're going to channel a number, a color, and a totem animal messenger for you, the listener, for the month of November 2024. So let's give it a shuffle and see what wants to come through. See what we got happening here. Okay. We have got the Page of Cups come through. Really kind of love this energy for November. Scorpio season can feel like a lot sometimes, but I feel like what I'm hearing about that is we might have like a connotation for Scorpio season to be a bit intense, right? When we're really in the dark days of fall at that point, starting to get colder. The veil is thinner. We're kind of like in that liminal space between, that in-between space between fall and winter, and it can be a time of great emotional transformation and change. And I'm feeling that intenseness certainly when I tap into the month of November with you. However, I feel like there is an opportunity for that intensity to both be like positive and negative. So it's kind of like, I hear it's like what you make it. It's what you make it. In general, I feel a lot of like quick, I keep hearing finger snap. So a lot of kind of like quick energy, fast-paced energy. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we're, kind of zooming through November and we go, oh, here we are already in December. And it feels like quicker than say like October passed or September passed. It feels like there's a sense of like time speeding up a little bit. And very transformational. A lot of new beginnings coming for so many of us in the month of November. Now, the tarot that we got is the Page of Cups. Okay, so this has been said to be like with the When Pigs Fly card. Okay, and even on the imagery of this card, if you're watching on YouTube, the artist has chosen in the corner up here, there's a little pig with wings on it, right? So it's kind of that it is what you make it month, and anything can happen month, right? So it's like, I do feel that intensity. I do feel like I keep hearing the word penchant. Like there's a penchant for something. That's very interesting language. Not sure why I'm hearing that, but we'll make note of it. Anything kind of unusual or not the norm that comes in when I'm channeling spirit, I always take note. Like, what are you trying to tell me with that? Yeah, so it's kind of like, what do we want to happen? There's this new beginning, this sense of motivation and inspiration, and almost a little bit of like, not in a negative way, but some spontaneity. Some like, let's just go for it and like see what happens and worry about, the outcome later. It's almost like taking action without that caution. And I keep hearing the word fool, but like in a good way. It's kind of like embodying the energy of the Fool card in tarot, being that, okay, I'm on the precipice of something new. I'm standing on the cliff and I'm ready to jump off. It's the beginning to everything that comes afterwards. So it feels like we are being asked to embrace that, like just take a leap, take a leap, take a leap. When pigs fly, when I'm hearing all of these like different different kind of sayings and things like that are really kind of all getting to the same thing. Page of Cups. So it's about taking some chances when it comes to our emotional well-being, the emotional landscape of our lives. So maybe we are wanting to turn over a new leaf when it comes to an existing relationship that we have in our lives, and we're just wanting to go, you know what? We've done the work and we've been in that kind of intense, heavy energy, and now it's time to kind of turn the page and make an intentional choice to try, right? Let's try to leave what's in the past, not to discard it. We're certainly like taking the lessons that we've learned from it, but we're not allowing the past and the kind of pains that we've had in the past to hold us hostage, to keep us stuck anymore. It feels like that's what Spirit's saying when we hear, it is what you make it, right? It can be a beautiful positive intensity, like, let's go, I'm ready to go. I'm going to change, turn the page. I'm going to change something big in my life when it comes to my emotions and how I deal with emotions and the emotional landscape of my life when it has to do with my relationships with others, my relationships to self, when it comes to my healing journey. I'm ready to go. I feel like there is a level of healing that's taken place, but it's really in our hands is what I hear. Because it feels like a lot of energy, we could very easily get into a place of overwhelm with it, or overthinking, or not wanting to move with it because we're being a little bit too cautious. So I am hearing, try to move through that resistance and just act as if. That's what I'm hearing. Act as if. Act as if it all works out. Act as if you're in a better place. Act as if the thing that you want and you hope is going to happen has happened. Act as if that. So try not to let your reservations hold you back from truly being transparent and vulnerable and open. I'm hearing vulnerability a lot, okay? So it feels like there is this kind of initiation coming through from the spirit world, from our higher selves, for us to kind of not only talk the talk, but walk the walk in the month of November. So to get vulnerable, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, you've done the work. You've read the books, you've taken the courses, you have, talked about it, you've gone to therapy, you've done everything that you can think of, you've put in boundaries, etc. Now let's take an area of life. In this case, it feels very emotion focused, and let's put it into practice. And that is certainly a theme that I have seen shown up in my clients' readings as of lately. And it's about taking the things that we have learned and the wisdom that we have earned and put it into practice. So it's time to walk the walk and to show up with transparency and vulnerability and hope. Okay? All right, so let's move on to the oracle message for November. I've got the Secrets of the Ancestors Oracle. I think I've only pulled from this once or twice. I got it in like the Hay House bundle in the spring. I felt it was fitting though, seeing as we're kind of like in that liminal space. I am recording this podcast in October. Halloween has not happened yet. But, November is still that time of year when we work with ancestors, especially when the veil is said to be thin, when a lot of us are feeling extra intuitive and all of the things. So I'm going to pull the card, and what I'm going to do is because I'm not familiar with this deck, I'm going to pull the card, I'm going to look at the imagery, I'm going to kind of feel how the card feels. I'm going to show you, if you're somebody who is just kind of learning to work with cards, or you desire to work with cards a little bit more, I always like to kind of work with the energy of the card before looking up the guidebook. Right? Just seeing what we can kind of glean from the card before we look in the guidebook. So the card we have is card number 12. So I'll give you that number in case it means anything to you or ends up showing up in your life in a big way. Got the Martyr, sacrifice and self-reflection. Very interesting. This card is gorgeous. If you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see lots and lots and lots of colors. Interestingly enough, it looks like a goddess of some type, and she's got this beautiful, colorful gown on, and she's got her hands closed in prayer, but she's upside down. It's almost like she's floating in space, and then we can see some rocks and crystals and things below her. And interesting. So we see, oh, and there's UFOs and things on the bottom. Okay, so there's imagery kind of at the bottom and the top, and we've got, she's upside down, like I said, the top of the card. We've got flowers and the earth and grass, and then the other part, the bottom of the card represents the sky, right? And the planets and the universe. So it's kind of flipped upside down, which I think is interesting. And I think probably is very intentional and purposeful on behalf of this artist. So let's see what we can take. It's like, definitely I'm interpreting this sense of like the in-between again, right? Because we've literally got this kind of dichotomy between space and between earth, right? Grounding, air, and then we've got this beautiful woman in prayer flipped upside down. Sacrifice and self-reflection. So definitely a time where we've got that intuitive, intense kind of energy where we're learning lots of lessons and where we are, maybe we're going to feel flipped upside down. When I say we are on this kind of precipice of new, and we kind of just have to step off the cliff, right? Maybe many of us are feeling as if we're navigating brand new territory, like we've been flipped upside down. We don't have any kind of narrative for what's to come. We don't have any experience for what's to come because it's uncharted territory. We haven't been there before. So you might be feeling jumbled up and kind of flipped upside down. Okay. So now let's go to the guidebook. Amazing. Opened up the guidebook immediately to the right page. All right. So let's see. So this says there's a difference between letting go and giving up. You may be feeling trapped, stagnant, or stuck in a moment of uncertainty. The solution is to let go. I feel like that validates a lot of what we were bringing up with the tarot card. Healthy sacrifices may be necessary, but it may not seem like it, but when you look back, it will all make sense. What if you did the opposite of what you're doing right now? Okay, so let's bring this back. So yeah, the interpretation of that card, right? It's the world being flipped upside down. It's doing something completely different, uncharted territory. How do we connect this to the Page of Cups? Well, remember, Spirit was bringing up the sense of almost like being in that fool's headspace, in the new beginning, in the uncharted territory, in the spontaneity, in the I've done the work, and now it's time to talk the talk, and I'm going to, embark on some sort of new territory. What I've been doing before is not working for me anymore. So we're in this place of intensity where, again, I'm being brought back to what came through with the tarot card where, I heard it will be what you make of it. It is a choice. And in this moment, I'm seeing, a coin being flipped, heads or tails. So it's kind of like, do we take a chance and do we do the thing that's different? Or do we do the thing that we've been doing over and over and over and over and over again? What's that saying? Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. That's kind of where we're at in November. It's like, okay, you've been talking enough. It's time to start walking. Okay? So, everything you're trying to fix externally may need to be remedied internally. Okay? So it says, as late great ancestor Dr. Wayne W. Dwyer used to say, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. Beautiful message there. This is just asking for you to take some time to reflect, but I want to really, really put it out there that I don't feel it's time to totally halt. It's time to totally stop. Because I feel as a spirit saying, some of us are kind of like stuck in the learning or the absorbing or the processing, and we're kind of just being asked to find a little bit more balance with that, right? So this is kind of reminding me of yesterday in a client session where the person was so much like me. It was very much like familiar kind of guidance coming through around wanting to kind of learn and maybe lose themselves in words, in text, in research, and kind of juicy information, and wanting to dig to the bottom of it, but also finding themselves using that sometimes as a way to escape, like actually applying the things that we've learned in the real world in practice, right? So it's kind of like find balance with the healing and the internal and the doing and the external. It can't be too extreme is kind of what I'm hearing for this month. Try not to get stuck in an extreme. It were like I talked about the liminal, there we go, the in between. The in between is sometimes uncomfy, right? But that's what this time period is all about. And we're being asked to straddle that, right? Straddle that in between, not swinging too far from side to side. So not totally leaning in all the way with the heart. We do need our mind a little bit too. Sometimes, it's best to just lean in all the way with our heart. Sometimes it's best to utilize and lean on our minds a little bit more in our sense of logic. But this month, we're kind of straddling the in-between, finding balance with those two things. So try to catch yourself if you're finding yourself in extremes. Now, I am hearing in this moment like things like extremes in sleep, or not enough sleep, right? So it might be that we're finding ourselves wanting to sleep more than usual. Not because we're sick or, we're going through something. It just feels almost like a coping mechanism or an avoidance tactic to not wanting to deal with something. You know what I mean? If you know what you know. There's like no shame, no judgment there, but just catch yourself if you are, say, like doom scrolling and you're spending way more time than you normally do scrolling on your phone, or you are staying up till all hours of the night, and you're like, why am I doing this? Because I'm paying for it the next day. It feels like there's a little bit of self-sabotage in the extremes this month. So do be mindful of any type of extreme behavior. Okay, so let's move on to the Soul's Journey lesson card. What is this all kind of trying to teach us? Where are we going with this? What is the purpose besides the obvious? Let's see what we've got here. Gratitude. I am thankful for this life and the opportunities that it provides. Okay. I got chills when I just read that off. So let's read it again. I am thankful for this life and the opportunities that it provides. So, how can embracing the in-between help us with gratitude? How can trying to be mindful of extremes help us with gratitude? I think it lies in what I just kind of said about avoidance. There's a tendency, like I think it's a human kind of behavior tendency. It's just something that we like to do. We like to avoid things that are uncomfy, right? And again, no shame here, no judgment. I'm human too, so I do this too. But it is something that we find ourselves doing. We find ourselves avoiding something because we don't want to deal with the uncomfy, or maybe there's there's a change coming and we just don't want to deal with the change, so we're procrastinating, we're avoiding, we're putting it off. Maybe there's a fear of uncertainty, like I don't know what that's going to bring when I make that change, so let's just stay in this in-between. Well, the in-between offers us an opportunity to get really clear, right? It kind of forces us to sit in that uncomfiness, and that's what is needed right now. And I feel the energy of like God and our loved ones and the archangels and, the ascended masters, your spirit guides, your higher self, whomever it is that you reach out to, that you know, kind of set the intention for support from, even if you're not setting your intention for support, you still got it, right? So it's like they will help you out tenfold. I'm truly seeing like taking one step and then them, scurrying along, taking a bunch of extra steps for you. So it feels like a little goes a long way this month. But this teaches us gratitude because we're able to like just sit in it rather than avoid, which there's a gift to that. There's a gift. It's reminding me of kind of this concept of what a beautiful thing it is to be able to feel the spectrum of human emotions, even the ones that we like to avoid or that we have deemed negative, quote unquote, like anger, like grief, etc., things that we want to run away from. There's a beauty in being able to experience that, though, right? This is a month when we're being asked to sit in it and experience it, and then to glean what we can from the experience. And by doing so, this puts us in a mindset, in an energy and space of gratitude, right? And what happens when we put ourselves in that place of gratitude? We attract more of what we want. So I feel like this is preparing us a little bit for some things that are to come. So when it comes to things that we want, that we've been manifesting, that we want to come in the next few months, I very much feel as November is that month where things can speed up, things can manifest very quickly, things can be kind of wrapped up very quickly if we allow them to. If we kind of go within and go to the depths of whatever it is that we're feeling and feel it, but then also to take some action with it, to put some things into practice. We can't just stay within all month because that would be an extreme. We need to straddle that in between, find that balance between those two things. Okay, so let's see where we go with, I'm going to start with animal this month. And interestingly enough, the reason that I'm starting with animal is because before I kind of even thought about what we're doing next or where I would go next, I saw an animal in my mind's eye. So I'm like, okay, well, here you are. You're here early. The animal that comes in for me is a skunk. A skunk. Isn't that interesting? Let's see. Well, let's take a moment first and see what comes forward. When I tap into the energy of Mr. Skunk here, or Mrs. Skunk, I don't know. Let's see. Ooh, interesting. This energy is bringing through a lot of momentum when it comes to facing our fears. It feels very much as the skunk is, I keep hearing like unapologetic, unapologetic. It's like, I'm here, I'm owning my emotions, I'm feeling what I'm feeling, I am who I am, I've done what I've done, I dream what I dream, I want what I want, and there's like this acceptance of self that's been hard earned is what I hear. And now it's kind of time to be unapologetic about it, in your face about it. There's a lot of self-acceptance that comes through with this energy of the skunk. I keep also hearing about camouflage and being mindful of camouflaging oneself. So being mindful of wanting to hide oneself because of a fear, right? Because of the fear of being seen. There's an initiation that's happening, and I think I've used that word. This is the second time. I think I used it once earlier in this episode, because it does feel like this month is an initiation of some sort. And it has to do with being comfortable with self and knowing that it's time. It's time to make some sort of move. It's time to make some sort of decision. It's time to let something go. It's time to accept yourself. It's time to love yourself. It's time to feel more confident. It's time to own own yourself and be comfortable in your own skin. So I feel a ton of focus on that in this month. So again, with this kind of message of being mindful of extremes, if we're wanting to hide, try not to. Try to push yourself beyond that fear. It feels like that may be a fear that's kind of in our faces though this month because it's a bit intense energy. But be mindful of like not holding yourself back from doing something just because we're fearful of how we may be perceived. I'm hearing about the projection field this month. We are all walking around as mirrors for each other, always, but it feels amplified in the month of November. So it feels as if the projection field is kind of quite strong and we're aware of it. So just as a reminder, and it's funny because I talked about this in my stories yesterday, so it's definitely an energy that's brewing. Whether people are kind of complimenting you and praising you, or whether they are criticizing you or bringing you down, there's a reminder coming through for you in the month of November that neither of those things are really about you. They are about the other. So you might find yourself projecting on another, or you may find yourself being projected upon. So in the example, say you are feeling envious or jealous of another, or you are feeling less than another because you're comparing your journey to theirs, and my goodness, they're so further beyond and they feel more successful, etc., etc., etc. That shows you those emotions that's being triggered within you, that's being mirrored back at you, is showing you what you could have. That's kind of the flip side, the positive kind of growth mindset that you could take from a feeling of jealousy or envy, showing you what you're capable of, that you actually desire, right? In the case of someone complimenting you, like in the case of, say, for myself, for instance, people singing my praise or saying, oh my God, you're the best thing since sliced bread, or, you're an amazing healer, etc., etc., etc. Lovely to hear. The ego loves it, of course. But ultimately, that is showing you, the complimenter, what is inside of you as well. And you acknowledging and recognizing it within me is meant to show you that you can too, that you have that within you as well. And then the flip side as well, there might be some criticism, somebody trying to bring you down into a lower vibration or energy. And those things are mirroring back to the person that is saying them, that there's where your growth is. There's the things you got to work on. So just reminder of that, whether you are the projector or the projectee. That is happening in November. It happens all the time, but it feels amplified in November. So be mindful of that. That's a way to kind of straddle the liminal, to straddle the in-between. It's this awareness outside of ego. That just because this person thinks I'm the best thing since sliced bread, it doesn't mean that I'm uppity and way up here. And just because this person doesn't understand what I do and they call me the devil incarnate, doesn't mean that I actually am. Neither about me. Right? So just embrace that and try to remind yourself of that this month. So thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Skunk. Also, if you're seeing a lot of skunks in the month of November, just a little totem, just a little spirit wink for you as well. A little reminder of all the things we just said. Okay. Color, definitely shades of orange and yellow come in. Definitely reminds me of fall, of course, with leaves and pumpkins and all of those things. but it's kind of like an ambery or citrine, and beautiful because citrine is the November birthstone, and I know that because that was my nanny's birthstone. And any day now, I should be receiving my memorial ring. I shipped it off. I shipped some of her remains, her ashes, away in August, and that ring should be ready soon. And it has her ashes in it, and there's citrine in it for her November birthstone, and I cannot wait to receive it. I'll definitely tell you guys about it when I receive it. It's going to be a special moment. But yeah, it's that kind of like ambery, citrine kind of colors I am seeing for the month of November. And so let's see where we go here. See, I do feel like just guidance to maybe lean on this color, or to wear something that's in that kind of orangey, or it's almost like a mustardy versus like a sunshine yellow. Those kind of shades. Or maybe you have like a special stone that's in those shades that you might think about carrying with you. Maybe it's just about visualizing that, or choosing something in your decor, burning a beautiful pumpkin candle, or like whatever it is that you choose to do. It just feels like there's some energy behind that color. I am hearing as well to connect that with the chakras, right? So we've got the solar plexus, certainly with this yellow wanting to come through, with the life force and the will, and this motivation coming through, and reminding yourself, and like finding that core, that center within you. That's the in-between as well, right? Sometimes we think about the in-between as being stuck in, like when we think about limbo, and sometimes it can be that, if you are avoiding something that is inevitable, and then you feel stuck because you're in the in-between. It's just like, okay, choose one, make a decision. But in this case, what I'm kind of referring to is straddling more balance, rather than finding yourself out of balance or in place of the extremes. And yeah, it feels like finding that balance when it comes to motivation, to your life force, to your will, right? So like I said earlier, when Spirit was bringing up the sleeping or the scrolling or whatever it is, the consuming in some way, where you're like keeping yourself from doing, or you're doing too much. It's like, that's what we're talking about here. So finding balance within the life force, not avoiding, not the shadowy aspect of that, not lethargy, or, all of those things, or avoidance or procrastination. It's like doing something with it, but taking your time with it. There is no rush, I hear, in the sense in the month of November. It's like you don't need to be rushed, because know that any aligned decision that you make that is authentic and feels right, and feels like it stems from a place of growth and intention, is gonna like speed up the outcome. So you don't need to speed up. Life itself will kind of speed up based on your conviction. That's a lovely message. Okay, I'm seeing number 3. That's what I keep seeing. So that's our number 3, and like variations of 3. So 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, but 3 comes in right now. Okay, so let's see. So I don't know, like numerology based off the top of my head, what 3 kind of stands for or means. But I am picking up on, in this moment, there's like a big focus on communication when we see this 3. 3s feel like a spirit sign for us this month. So to say, to recognize that that's a form of communication from our guides or the angels or God, our loved ones, feels like 3 is a form of communication. It also feels like if you're seeing like variations of the number 3 often, it is a sign for you to kind of focus on that aspect, communication, especially let's take it back to the tarot when we talked about the emotions. So, how we communicate our feelings, whether they are, feelings of displeasure or pleasure. How do we communicate that? How do we say those things, right? I keep hearing like watch your tongue, not in the sense that I want you to bite your tongue or like hold something within you, hold something down or stuff it down, but just be mindful of how we say it, because we're in this place of intensity and extremes, and we're in this place of projection. So there could be a tendency to say something that you don't mean, or kind of say it in a tone that comes across in a way that you don't mean. And also, you might be on the receiving end of that. So try to remind yourself of that as well. This might be somebody just kind of reacting quickly. So just be mindful of that in case there are some maybe disagreements or things that miscommunications that come forward in the month of November. There is a huge focus on how we communicate. So just know that. Just know that as we move forward. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave you for today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We got this. We got this, people. We'll be good. We'll be good. We'll move through November, and then I'll see you again. And we will bring through the last month, the 12th month of 2024. Anyways, I'll see you next week, though, with another episode about something else. Thanks for joining me. Take good care, everyone. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider hopping on over to wherever you listen to your podcast and giving it a 5-star review. Thank you so much in advance. If you'd like to keep in touch, please head over to my website, theintuitiverising.com, to keep up with all the things that I have been doing. I also have a private Facebook community for people just like you. It's called the Intuitive Rising Community. All you gotta do is request to join, and I will let you in. Keep rising.